Xi Jinping began the month of May with what truly was a historic tour in Europe. It was his first trip in over 5 years to the continent because of both COVID and, of course, the worsening relations between China and Europe that have taken place because of the US's influence. But Xi Jinping made a huge statement by choosing a very specific set of countries to visit, sending a really devastating message to the United States. Who were these countries exactly? Well, it's France, right? What many view as both a US puppet as well as a kind of malign actor in Europe, saying one thing, doing another. Emmanuel Macron being one of the most unpopular leaders, but one that China has seen as sufficiently weak enough to steer potentially in a direction favorable to China and the multipolar world. Then he headed to Serbia, where the relations between Serbia and China were elevated to the community for a shared future for humankind, the highest level of partnership that a country can have with China. And he visited, Xi Jinping did, on the anniversary of NATO's bombing of Serbia in May 7, 1999, which killed 3 Chinese nationals. It was indeed something, a message to NATO, which drove the West mad. And then he ended the trip in Hungary. One thread throughout this trip is that economic deals were inked. Over 70 economic deals were inked between the 3 countries, 30 of which reside with Serbia. But we are going to start with the fact that as Xi Jinping was in Europe, the United States was trying to undermine this by provoking China militarily. So the Philippines was one area, but then, of course, you have things like this where China's military is confronting U.S. ships in the South China Sea. The U.S. Navy said a destroyer, the USS Haley, was exercising navigational rights near Parcel Islands, even though the Parcel Islands are nowhere near the United States. So there's absolutely no, it doesn't matter. You can't question claims. It's absolutely ridiculous. And China said this violated their sovereignty. But I want to show you, because the United States always claims that it's China being aggressive, but they never show the full map, okay? And I'm going to show you exactly why it is ridiculous to say this in the context of this European trip, because here you have Peter Cornell saying, before AUKUS, consider which came first. Was it Obama's pivot to Asia, blowing up much in the Middle East, concentrating military might in Asia with one specific objective, or China moving to build islands in the South China Sea and installing defense posts on them? It's not B. Just look at that photo. That is from Sky News itself, talking about the Indo-Pacific. This was a program on China being the military threat. But look at all those bases and military installations, hardware surrounding China from Australia all the way through the South China Sea, surrounding the Taiwan Straits. This is the real situation. This is what they don't want you to know. And this is what the United States always builds up and tries to provoke even further and escalate when China is doing something like it was doing in Europe. So you have China undermining the US's emphasis on military and on war by essentially waging a stronger position economically and diplomatically in Europe. So it started in France. And mind you, it didn't necessarily start off amazingly, all right? Because, well, Xi Jinping received a pretty warm welcome in France. There was a whole welcoming committee. It was more impressive in Serbia, and I'm going to show you that. You had a constant barrage of media attempts by the media to frame this as absolutely unproductive. So here was the Financial Times saying that Xi Jinping's unproductive European tour China's president gave few concessions and signaled his authoritarian worldview. So when he last visited Europe in 2019, he put a charm offensive with lofty ambitions. He signed commercial deals in Paris, celebrated Rome's participation in the Belt and Road, and made bold promises for economic cooperation in Greece. His tour this week takes place under radically different circumstances, talking about eroding support, the conflict in Ukraine, and all of that. And then consider his itinerary: meetings with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who was not invited. So we're going to show you that she was not someone that Xi Jinping was saying, okay, yeah, we're going to meet. She forced her way into the meeting with Emmanuel Macron, and then you just have to see the media reports about this. Harken back to Beijing's former charm offensive, small concessions on threatened Chinese tariffs on French cognac, but much of Xi's trip has been spent embracing Chinese allies that are troublesome members of the European family, like Belgrade on the 25th anniversary and Hungary. So you see how they automatically target. They move from France and they say that China was essentially targeting European enemies in the European family. Some democracy the European Union is, huh? This just makes China look much better, because now we are seeing what Europe really thinks about its own partners. But the truth of the matter is you just had this constant offensive. Just look at the things that these hawks, these anti-China hawks, like Joel Atkinson, who is this? Who knows? Some washed up fool who supposedly researches and teaches international politics in South Korea. He tried to claim that Xi brought Wang Yi and Hua Chunying for support. Do you see this manipulated photo? Well, look at the comments, okay? Because we have to look at the comments. Why did Macron need Ursula von der Leyen as support? Look at this crew that Macron brought with him. It looks like Xi Jinping's crew is a lot smaller than Macron's crew, but then that would mean acknowledging that these pathetic attempts at smearing Xi Jinping's tour are nothing more than a smokescreen for why it is France and the EU that's in the weak position here. But here is a funny one from Jiao Shui. He says, the true character of a person are found in the details. President Xi has a stopwatch in front of him during the meeting with French President Macron. Strict, no-nonsense, punctual, not a huge fan of small talk, at least not with van der Leyen and Macron. Look at the watch. She circles the watch. So this is all just to set the stage for the mood when it comes to France. Now, here we have to just underscore the fact that Xi Jinping came into this meeting with really good intent. I mean, really sincere intentions on fostering better relations. He had an article in French media, in Le Figaro, caring for the spirit that guided the establishment of China-French diplomatic relations and working together toward global peace and development. So he published this whole article in the media as a sign of good gestures, talking about the need for increased collaboration on issues like the Middle East, on Ukraine, and of course, together bilaterally to strengthen relations. And really not controversial stuff here. But through all of that embarrassment, through all of that attempts, right, all these attempts to denigrate Xi Jinping, even in France, to make it seem like there were no concessions other than cognac. I mean, here's that story from Politico. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Macron's cognac, the only thing that went down smoothly with Xi. Xi Jinping handed Emmanuel Macron some wins during his state visit, but offered few meaningful concessions on trade and Ukraine. He presented him with a highly symbolic gifts. Xi Jinping did several bottles of France's most exquisite cognacs. It was not a subtle hint. China's anti-dumping investigation to European wine-based liquors, largely targeting France's cognac producers, is seen as retaliation for the EU's decision to open several investigations against Beijing on suspicion of unfair trade practices in sectors such as electric vehicles and medical device manufacturing. Absolutely ridiculous stuff. It's just Europe shooting itself in the foot. But nonetheless, Xi Jinping was offering his sweeteners, a promise not to slap preemptive tariffs on French brandies and support Macron's Olympic truce. But unlike Macron's liquors, Xi's offerings may not go down quite as well. During the Chinese leader's 2-day visit that kicked off, so this was Monday in the first week of May, Macron had hoped to soften Beijing's stance on several key issues, including trade imbalances and its no limits partnership with Russia. What Macron got was a tin-eared Xi who denied there were any problems, offered modest concessions that required very little sacrifice on China's part, or outright misrepresented China's involvement in Russia's war in Ukraine. So essentially, the Western mainstream media, NATO, Europe, the United States, they viewed this visit as nothing more than a potential opportunity to get concessions from China. An absolutely ridiculous position given that Europe and the United States are in no position to try to get concessions from China. China is the economy that's growing at 5% plus this year. China's economy is looking great with high tech, electric vehicles, all these things. This overcapacity that they're talking about is actually an admission that China's economy is doing quite well. Its manufacturing sector is actually moving forward while demand is down inside of China. China has rectified a lot of imbalances and is moving forward quite nicely with a lot of confidence, and its position on the world stage has only grown stronger. And this trip actually showed that, because while the Financial Times are saying this is so unproductive, while while Politico is complaining that China did not give any concessions to Macron, here is what China and France did. They inked many deals on the sidelines of the visit. So here were the main contracts: an agreement to set up a global strategic partnership in the battery industry between Xiamen Tungsten New Energy and Orano, memorandum of understanding between Envision and Suez, supply contracts for electric traction systems between the Alstom company, the French company, and the new United Group for metro lines in Beijing and Wuhan. 3 partnership projects between EDF and SPIC, namely hydrogen production, installation of photovoltaic panels in Saudi Arabia, and maintenance of low consumption public lighting in Wuhan. Memorandum of understanding between Fives and Envision for cooperation in the assembly of battery cells in France. Supply contract for the electric traction system of Line 8 of the Hefei Metro between Alstom and CRRC. That's a China Railway Corporation. Contract between the city of Dongguan and Suez for the incineration of municipal sludge. Renewal of the strategic memorandum of understanding between the Bank of China and Credit Agricole. Support contract still under discussion. So we can go on and on and on. All right. Commitment of EDF in China General Nuclear Power Group on the continuation expansion of cooperation. And of course, I said the contract still under discussion between Safran Helicopter Engines and the private country General Dynamic Aerotechnology. So deals. Okay. That's what China was really wanting to meet about. That's what they met about. And that's what happened. Now, this visit was not as important to China, believe it or not, as the other visits, especially the Serbia visit. And this is what is such a game changer. And this is why the collective West cannot stand when Xi Jinping and China asserts the diplomatic power, the influence that it has, because it is one that does not prioritize the collective West. Xi Jinping does not have a stopwatch when he meets with Serbia's president, Alexander Vucic. No, actually, we're going to see what happened with Serbia. Let's just start with the big one. All right. The big announcement that was that China and Serbia decide to build a community with a shared future. This is an elevation of the strategic partnership to the highest level between China and Serbia. Let's read what that's all about. So China and Serbia have decided on Wednesday, so this is the Wednesday of the first week of May, or into the second week of May, to build a community with a shared future and upgrade of their relations from a comprehensive strategic partnership established 8 years ago. The decision was declared by visiting Chinese President Xi Jinping and his counterpart, Alexander Vucic, during their meeting in the Serbian capital. Xi stressed that ironclad friendship between China and Serbia has stood the test of changing international landscape, saying that such friendship is characterized by profound historical roots, solid political foundation, extensive common interests, and strong popular support. She said over the past several years, under the leadership of him and Vucic, the bilateral relationship has leapfrogged with historic progress since the establishment of the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership in 2016, the bilateral relationship has been enriched in substance and scope. It has become an exemplar for China's friendly relations with other European countries. China stands shoulder to shoulder with Serbia, share weal and woe like passengers in the same boat, carry forward the spirit of the ironclad friendship, maintain and grow their friendship, and jointly safeguard fundamental long-term interests of the two countries. Do you hear these words being uttered with France? No, you did not hear these words being uttered when it comes to France. Basically, what you had with France was Xi Jinping saying, look, get on the right path, treat China like an equal, and we need to essentially be the example of what it means to be frenemies, to be friends and adversaries at the same time. China was not messing around, and I can prove that through the article that Xi Jinping wrote in French media. Okay, I'll actually pull that back up in a second after we get to some of these terms, because it shows the great contrast here. Okay, so the China-Serbia community with a shared future of the new era, Xi said, is an upgrade from the ironclad friendship between China and Serbia, adding it represents common values and objectives, the pursuit of joint development, win-win cooperation, and mutual success. The China-Serbia community with a shared future in the new era, the two sides are going to keep deepening and expanding high-quality Belt and Road cooperation and collaboration between China and Central Asian and Eastern European countries, contributing to their respective modernization. The Chinese leader called on two sides to highlight the strategic nature of the bilateral partnership, keep its general direction, saying that China supports Serbia in upholding independence, pursuing a development path suited to its own national conditions, and supports its effort of safeguarding national sovereignty and territorial integrity. So here are some of the things that they're going to firm up, okay, because they're talking about Belt and Road. So they're going to steadily advance cooperation. So the China-Serbia Free Trade Agreement is set to take effect in July 1st of this year. So that's one of the big deals made here. The high standard mutual opening up between China and Serbia will enter a new stage. The Chinese side is also going to invite 300 young Serbians to China on study and exchange programs in the next 3 years. Adding, China welcomes the opening of direct flights from Belgrade and Shanghai by the Serbian side so as to comprehensively deepen people-to-people exchanges. She also called for opening up new prospects of cooperation and innovation in bilateral relations and making innovation cooperation the new growth driver in the relationship. China is going to support 50 young Serbian scientists in taking part in scientific research exchanges in China over the next 3 years, adding China is ready to work with Serbia to strengthen cooperation in AI and endeavor to ensure humanity properly develops and utilizes AI. It is important for China and Serbia to reject hegemonism and power politics, oppose bloc politics and confrontation, adding that the two sides are going to join hands and uphold purposes and principles of the UN Charter. So that is just some of what's happening here. You see the scenes. I mean, this is just different, right? This is just a different vibe and environment in Serbia. Okay. The hero's welcome from Xi Jinping. No timer on the table here. Look at the reception, the roses. Okay. This is just a lot different. They are elevating their ties to the highest level, meaning increased development. I mean, these are just photos. And just the fact that Chinese media is extensively emphasizing Serbia just goes to show what it all means. Okay. And here's Hua Chunying, the spokesperson of the foreign ministry. She gave some bullet points about what this means of the China-Serbia free trade agreement. I mean, the China-Serbia community with a shared future in the new era. Hua Chunying said, these are the points. The free trade agreement taking part in July 1st, hosting the Specialized Expo in 2027. Chinese businesses will be encouraged to take part in the relevant construction projects. China will import high-quality agricultural specialties from Serbia. 50 young Serbian scientists, as the article said, will be going to China for exchange programs in the next 3 years. China is going to invite 300 young Serbians to study in China in the next 3 years, and China welcomes the opening of direct flights. So major cooperation, major deals, and they emphasize much more than just business ties, okay? Because this was a lot more than just business. This was about politics when it comes to the China-Serbia relationship. It was about rejecting great power confrontation. It was about rejecting the empire, rejecting the joint adversary that they have, which is US and NATO hegemonism. That's why they met on May 7th of this year, because May 7th of 1999 was when the NATO bloc bombed the embassy, the Chinese embassy in Belgrade, and killed 3 Chinese nationals. Here you have Li Jingjing, friend of the show. Wow, thank you so much, Serbia, for this incredible welcome. Look at this ironclad friendship. Look at this photo. I mean, just absolute pandemonium and excitement for China. Okay. And then you had many political statements. First, let's listen to what Xi Jinping had to say during a meeting with Vucic. Okay, here it is. Here's DD Geopolitics again doing the great reporting. Definitely follow DD Geopolitics. President of the People's Republic of China during a meeting with the President of the Republic of Serbia. Let's listen to it. So I'm gonna read it, okay? So, Mr. President Vucic, dear friend, I am very happy to be here in your beautiful country. Let me just put it on mute, actually. Mr. President, you greeted me at the airport. Actually, let's just read the quote, okay? Because here he says, my wife and I were deeply touched by the kindness and friendship of your people, and I especially feel that you, Excellency, have made a significant personal contribution to my visit. I vividly remember my previous visits, and this time the arrangements you have prepared really show our relations are at a high level and demonstrate how deep our friendship is. In China, we always say we are deeply impressed by the kindness of our friend. We are signing more than 29 agreements. With China, a significant investment. The first part is a free trade agreement with China, come into effect on July 1st. There are 3 phases of the agreement. It's implementation over the next 15 years, with the first phase now on July 1st, the next in the 5 years, and the final phase in 10 years. So then you had Vucic, okay? So you have Xi Jinping talking about just how appreciative he was for Serbia's welcome. I mean, these are all messages, right? This is more than just inking deals. This is about politics, okay? This is about expressing what's really important here. Here you have another message, okay? Here's Vucic talking about Taiwan is China. So this is the politics part, right? This is the politics. Let's listen to Vucic here, all right?
Mnogo više. Oni su naši iskreni prijatelji. I kao što mi imamo jasne i jednostavne stavove po pitanju kineskog teritorijalnog integriteta i zato uvek i na svakom mestu kažemo da, Tajvan je Kina, da to piše u Povelji Ujedinjenih nacija, tako i oni podržavaju teritorijalni integritet Srbije bez ikakvih.
Look at the smile and look at the claps from Xi Jinping. I mean, this is far more informal than you will see major world leaders behave. I mean, this is excitement. This is solidarity. This is an expression that Serbia and China are truly together building a community for a shared future. So here, let's just finish what he has to say.
I tako su uvek sa nama u svim najtežim trenucima. Ne zaboravite da su naši kineski prijatelji bili sa nama i pre 25 godina kada je ova zemlja bila rušena i bombardovana, da su zajedno sa nama platili visoku cenu, izgubili ljude samo nekoliko stotina metara odavde. Baš na današnji dan. I hoću da kažem veliko hvala predsedniku Siju, jer sve ovo što smo izgradili u Beogradu, a samo deo toga je on mogao da vidi noćas i jutros, izgradili smo i zahvaljujući jačoj privredi srpskoj, zahvaljujući njegovoj podršci za našu železaru, za naš rudnik u Boru, za mnoge privatne investicije koje dolaze u našu zemlju i još mnogo toga možemo i moramo da uradimo zajednički.
So, I mean, there you have it, okay? Don't forget that our Chinese friends were here with us 25 years ago when this country was destroyed and bombed. They paid a high price together with us and lost people just a few hundred meters from where we are speaking, making a strong a strong statement on the territorial integrity of China, saying that Taiwan is China. Incredible. Incredible. So lastly, Xi Jinping ended the tour in Hungary, where he met with Viktor Orban, another maligned leader of, of Europe. Here is what happened. This is Sputnik reporting on the results of the talks. What did China and Hungary's leader agree on? The Chinese leader praised Beijing-Budapest relationship, which he stressed is at the best in its history and has embarked on a golden voyage. President Xi Jinping and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban held talks in Budapest as part of the Chinese leader's last stop on his 5-day European tour. It saw the sides ink 18 new agreements to deepen bilateral economic and cultural cooperation, including accords on nuclear energy, investment, and tourism. Xi told reporters that after the talks, Beijing and Budapest have agreed to elevate bilateral relations to an all-weather comprehensive partnership for a new era. So that means that relations between China and Hungary are even better now than they were prior to this visit. So Serbia gets the highest promotion and rank in China's diplomatic relations with other nations, community for a shared future, because that is China's overall goal. And to say that another country is walking with you hand in hand in that goal is the highest level. All-weather partnership is a next level down. Then it's comprehensive strategic partnership. Then it's just strategic partnership, and then it's just bilateral relations or whatever. So here you have all-weather partnership between Hungary and China established in this meeting. This year marks the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and Hungary, ushering in a new and important opportunity for the development of bilateral relations, said Xi Jinping. He added that during Thursday's talks, Orban in particular agreed to that China's Belt and Road Initiative is highly consistent with Hungary's strategic opening to the east. She signaled Beijing's readiness to forge greater synergy and development strategies with Hungary, make good use of mechanisms such as the China-Hungary Intergovernmental China Belt and Governmental Belt and Road Cooperation Committee, as well as actively expand cooperation in emerging areas such as clean energy and artificial intelligence. I want to say a note on artificial intelligence. The reason why that keeps coming up is because China, unlike the United States and the West, has been very careful to only implement, discuss, and talk about AI in the context of business and government activity. There is no consumer AI right now. Why? Because China does not believe it has a good grasp on what is necessary in terms of regulations to ensure that people are protected from some of the malign things that happen that companies, private individuals, can do with AI. So they're heavily regulating it, and it's only discussed in the context of economic relationships, business between within China and between partners. That is where it is staying for now. So the Chinese president also expressed hope that Hungary, which is to hold a rotating EU presidency in the second half of this year, will play an active role in promoting healthy and stable development of China-EU relations. The prime minister recalled that Chinese investment was so small in Hungary 20 years ago that it was a magnifying glass was needed to find it. However, last year, 3/4 of all foreign investment in Hungary was by China, adding to help provide jobs for tens of thousands of Hungarians. That's just mind-blowing. That's mind-blowing. That's mind-blowing. 3/4 of all foreign investment in Hungary is Chinese. Incredible. Does this look like a collapsing economy? If it was collapsing, the whole world economy, and first the global majority economies would be collapsing one by one because of China's economic collapse. That's not happening because China is not collapsing. China is forging ahead. No self-respecting country in economic crisis forges ahead with deeper relations and partnerships and investments in other countries. That's not how it works. Anyway, I would like to assure the president that Hungary will continue to provide fair conditions for Chinese companies investing in our country, and that we will create the opportunity for the most modern Western and most modern Eastern technologies and build cooperation in Hungary. The Xi-Orban talks came shortly after the Chinese leader lauded the two countries' longstanding friendship that he described as mellow and rich as Tokaji wine in an op-ed published in Hungary's Magyar Nemzet Daily, a nod to the world-famous Hungarian vineyards. We have gone through hardships together and defied power politics together amid volatile international situations, adding that China looks forward to working closely with Hungarian friends. So notice how different that tone is than this. I'm just going to close this segment on Xi Jinping's editorial. So it's kind of full circle here to the French media. And I want to go all the way to the final remarks, okay, that he gives in the last paragraph. Confucius observed that a man of true moral integrity is one who is both friendly but independent, and who does not compromise his principles, and who is independent without any bias or taking sides. How unflinchingly firm he is in his strength. End quote. French writer Romain Rolland said that it is so much easier to allow oneself to be guided than it is to think for oneself. This abdication is the kernel of mischief. Both China and France value independence as two major countries. Our interactions in the long course of history have released tremendous energy, swaying the trajectory of the world. Now we are standing at another historical starting point. Let us join hands together on this new journey toward greater progress in China-France relations to the benefit of our two countries and the world. So you might think, oh, that's a nice statement. But those two quotes are all a message to Macron and to Europe and to the United States, or at least to Europe, but through France to the EU, saying, stop being a vassal of the United States. Stop being such a tool, a dog being dragged around by an abusive owner. Stop it. That is what China was saying there. And of course, China does it diplomatically. China sends messages in ways that both affirm principles, but have absolutely no hostility or animus. It's not about animus or hostility. It's about sending the correct message and showing that China stands tall in these situations, should be treated like an equal, but more importantly, has a very stark principle that doesn't have to be communicated to Serbia or Hungary. That's why China chose these countries, because on the one side, you have these two eastern flank countries in Eastern Europe that have been maligned by the collective West, who have deep relationships with China, strong, friendly, not characterized by aggression at all. And then you have France, the worn down poodle of the European Union. Once again, Macron inviting Ursula von der Leyen to be his attack dog because she is just so rabidly anti-China. I don't even know what really goes on upstairs for that oligarch, unelected oligarch. But nonetheless, different tone here, different tone used. As you can tell, there's not a lot of love lost when it comes to the relationship between China and France. China was attempting to get relations back on the right track. And of course, business will continue to happen because France really needs it. France cannot afford to continue to shoot itself in the foot as it has with Russia. And so that is the contrast here. That is the message China sent. China said, we are moving when it comes to Europe in the direction of building the multipolar world, standing with the global majority, being that anchor economically as well as politically and diplomatically. And France and the EU better hop on the train or essentially be incinerated by that which is preventing you from hopping on the train, which is the United States. The United States is the abusive owner. It is the abusive handler. It is the abusive partner to Europe. It's not a partner. It is the master. And that is what China was warning against with Macron. But of course, we cannot believe or think that Macron in Europe is going to steer itself in the right direction without massive political changes. So China just did a major checkmate in Europe. What an impressive tour, and what a signal of hope in a time where you have a Gaza genocide, where you have the world on fire because of the United States, because of Israel, because of NATO, because of the European collective West decaying so-called civilization. We have a moment where China is really pushing forward a trajectory that is just so impressive politically, economically, diplomatically that you have to acknowledge it. You have to talk about it and you have to cover it. And that's what we just did right here. China's on the rise. It is not collapsing. And Europe just got a huge message in so many ways of that fact. Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/DannyDhaiphong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.